Welcome back, you beautiful, unbreakable forces of chaos. Yes, you, the ones who stayed quiet for way too long. The ones who swallowed their words, bit their tongues, and played nice while they tore you apart piece by piece. The ones who finally had enough. You said something, didn't you? One line, one sentence, one perfectly crafted, razor-sharp comeback that sliced through their fake smiles and shattered their little illusion of control. And now everything is burning. Not just them, but the entire structure they built to keep you beneath them. The alliances, the group chats, the whispered agreements, all of it collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. They thought they were united against you. They thought you were the common enemy, the glue that held their pathetic little coalition together. But the moment you spoke, the moment you fired back with that one line, you didn't just defend yourself, you detonated something unstoppable. Let's talk about what really happened here, because this isn't just about words. This is about awakening. This is about the moment a sleeping giant finally opened its eyes and said, "Enough." For months, maybe years, you watched them. You watched them gossip, manipulate, gaslight, and team up against you like cowards hiding behind numbers. They thought safety came in groups, that their collective cruelty made them powerful. They mocked your silence. They mistook your patience for weakness. But you weren't weak. You were studying. You were observing. You were mapping every lie, every contradiction, every fragile ego pretending to be confidence. You saw the cracks in their armor long before they did. You knew exactly which words would split them open. And when the perfect moment arrived, when they pushed you just a little too far, you delivered that one comeback line with surgical precision. Not loud, not emotional, just truth, sharp and undeniable. And the second those words left your mouth, something shifted. The air changed, the room got colder. You could see it in their eyes, that flicker of panic, that sudden realization that maybe, just maybe, they'd picked the wrong person to underestimate. Because your comeback didn't just hit one of them, it hit all of them. It exposed the lie they were all pretending to believe. It revealed the weakness they were all hiding behind their united front. Now here's where it gets beautiful. Here's where your one line becomes a chain reaction that destroys everything they built. See, groups like theirs, they're not held together by loyalty or love or genuine connection. They're held together by a shared target. They needed you to be the villain so they could play heroes in their own twisted story. They needed you to be weak so they could feel strong. They needed you silent so their lies could echo unchallenged. But you broke that pattern. You spoke. You defended yourself with a truth so cutting, so undeniable, that it forced them to look at each other differently. Suddenly, the person standing next to them wasn't an ally anymore. They were a potential threat. Because if you could see through their act, maybe others could too. If you could expose one lie, maybe all the lies were about to crumble. Paranoia started creeping in, like poison gas. Within hours, maybe minutes, the cracks started showing. Someone made a comment, just trying to brush past the tension, but it came out wrong. Another person jumped to defend themselves before anyone even accused them of anything. Someone else started bringing up old grudges, suddenly remembering betrayals they buried for the sake of the group. Your one comeback line didn't just defend you. It held up a mirror, and they all saw themselves reflected back. They started questioning each other. Did you hear what they said about you last week? Wait, you told them that? I thought we agreed not to bring that up. Why are you looking at me like that? The whispers that used to target you now turned inward. The knives they sharpened for your back suddenly found new targets. The group chat that used to buzz with coordinated attacks against you went silent. then exploded with accusations, defenses, and desperate attempts to control the narrative. You didn't have to do anything else. You didn't have to keep fighting, keep explaining, keep defending. Your one line was a match, and their entire foundation was gasoline. They built their alliance on lies, manipulation, and shared cruelty. The moment truth entered the equation, the whole structure became unstable. Now they're tearing each other apart, scrambling to cover their own backs, sacrificing each other to save themselves. It's a civil war, and you're not even on the battlefield anymore. Let's go deeper into the psychology of what you triggered, because this is where it gets truly satisfying. These people, your former tormentors, they operated on a simple principle: strength in numbers, safety in consensus. As long as they all agreed you were the problem, they didn't have to look at their own flaws. As long as they could point at you and say, "See, that's the villain," they could ignore the monsters they were becoming. But you shattered that illusion with one perfectly placed sentence. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You didn't try to convince them you were good or right or worthy. You simply stated a truth so obvious, so irrefutable that it couldn't be ignored or dismissed. Maybe you pointed out their hypocrisy. Maybe you exposed their leader's manipulation. Maybe you exposed their leader's manipulation. Maybe you calmly named the pattern they'd all been dancing around pretending not to see. Whatever you said, it worked because it was true, and truth, real truth, is the most dangerous weapon against people who built their power on lies. They can't fight it with more lies because now everyone's watching, everyone's listening. They can't ignore it because your words are echoing in their minds, forcing them to acknowledge what they'd been denying. They can't unite against it because your truth exposed the fault lines that were always there, hidden beneath fake solidarity. So now they're fracturing. The ones who always felt slightly uneasy about the cruelty but went along anyway, they're pulling back, suddenly developing consciences, suddenly remembering they have boundaries. The ones who were quietly competing for leadership, they're making their moves now, using your revelation as ammunition against each other. The ones who just wanted to belong, they're panicking, not sure whose side to take, not sure if there even are sides anymore. And the ringleader, the one who orchestrated everything, who convinced everyone else that targeting you was justified, they're scrambling. Their power was never real. It was just convincing everyone else to follow their lead. But now that you've broken the spell, now that people are thinking for themselves again, their authority is evaporating. They're making desperate plays, trying to regain control, but every move makes them look weaker. Every attempt to redirect blame makes them look more guilty. You want to know the most poetic part of all this? They created this situation themselves. Every cruel word they spoke about you, every lie they spread, every person they recruited to their cause, every moment they spent building their case against you, all of it became the foundation of their own destruction. Because when you finally responded, when you finally spoke that one perfect comeback, you didn't create new accusation. You simply held up everything they'd already done and said, "Look, just look at what you've become." And they looked. Maybe not all of them at once, maybe not willingly, but your words forced a moment of clarity. And in that moment, they saw themselves. Not the heroes they pretended to be, not the victims they claimed to be, but the bullies, the manipulators, the cowards they'd become. And some of them couldn't live with that reflection. So they started pointing fingers at each other, desperate to offload the guilt, desperate to be the one person in the group who wasn't that bad. And the accusations are flying. She's the one who started all this. He's the one who took it too far. I was never that invested. I tried to stop them. I only went along because I was scared. The rewriting of history is happening in real time. Everyone's scrambling to position themselves as the least guilty, the most innocent, the one who secretly always liked you. It's hilarious and pathetic and absolutely deserved. Meanwhile, you're watching from a distance, not with vengeance, but with something calmer. Vindication. Validation. The quiet satisfaction of knowing you were right all along. They'd tried to convince you that you were the problem, that your personality was flawed, that their treatment of you was somehow your fault, but your one comeback proved what you always knew. The problem was never you, it was always them, and now everyone can see it. You didn't need to fight harder. You didn't need to play their games or stoop to their level. You just needed to speak one truth at the right moment and let their own corruption do the rest. They destroyed themselves. You were just the catalyst. The match that revealed how flammable their lies always were. Let's address what happens next, because this is where most people get confused. They think this chain reaction means you've won, that now you can go back and reclaim your spot in the group, that now they'll apologize and everything will be fine. No, that's not how this works. That's not what this is about. This isn't a reconciliation story. You don't want them back. You shouldn't want them back. People who spent weeks, months, years treating you like garbage don't suddenly become trustworthy because their coalition collapsed. The ones reaching out now, the ones trying to rebuild bridges, they're not doing it because they realized they were wrong. They're doing it because they're scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of being the next target. Scared that without the group, they're nothing. Let them be scared. Let them feel exactly what they made you feel. Isolation, doubt, the crushing weight of being on the outside looking in. Because here's the beautiful truth, they're only now beginning to understand. You survived it. You walked through their fire and came out stronger, clearer, more certain of who you are. But them, they can't survive what they created. They need the group, the validation, the constant reinforcement that they're good people. Without it, they crumble. Your one comeback line didn't just start a civil war among them. It freed you. It cut the last cord tying you to their opinion of you. Because the moment you spoke up, the moment you stopped caring whether they liked you or accepted you, you became untouchable. Not because you're perfect, not because you're above hurt, but because their weapons don't work on you anymore. Their gossip, their exclusion, their judgment, it all lost its power the second you stopped giving it power. Now they're the ones obsessing. They're the ones checking your status, your posts, wondering what you're thinking, whether you're watching their self-destruction with satisfaction or indifference. They're the ones who can't move on because they built so much of their identity around opposing you. And now that you're not playing the role they assigned you, now that you're not the villain in their story, they don't know who they are anymore. So what do you do now? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This is the part where you master the art of absence. You don't gloat, you don't send messages, you don't subtly reference the chaos in your posts. You don't give them anything to analyze, to twist, to use as evidence that you're still thinking about them. Because you're not. You're building something new, something better, something that has nothing to do with them. This is your season of radical self-focus. While they're drowning in drama of their own making, you're learning, growing, creating, connecting with people who actually value you. You're discovering that life without their toxicity is lighter, brighter, more peaceful than you ever imagined. You're realizing that their rejection wasn't a loss. It was a redirection towards something infinitely better. And every day you spend thriving in your new reality is another day they spend trapped in their collapsing one. Every moment you invest in your own growth is a moment they waste trying to repair relationships built on lies. Every connection you make with genuine, kind people is a reminder that their cruelty was never normal, never acceptable, never something you had to tolerate. Your one comeback line was the beginning of your freedom. But your silence now, your refusal to engage, your commitment to moving forward without them, that's the continuation of it. That's how you ensure this chain reaction you started doesn't pull you back in. Because they will try. When the dust settles and they realize what they lost, some of them will reach out. They'll test the waters with casual messages, inside jokes, invitations to reconnect. Don't bite. Remember what they revealed about themselves. Not in their moment of apology, but in their months of cruelty. People don't change that fast. They're not reaching out because they've grown. They're reaching out because their social circle imploded, and they're desperate for any connection that feels familiar. You're not a backup plan. You're not a nostalgia trip. You're not their redemption arc. Let's talk about the long game, because this is where your power becomes permanent. Right now, they're in chaos. Friendships are ending. Accusations are flying. Everyone's trying to figure out who they can trust. It's messy and dramatic and consuming all their energy, but eventually it will settle. Some of them will reconcile. Some will form new alliances. Some will drift apart forever. And when that dust settles, they'll all remember one thing. You, the one who started it all with a single sentence. The one who saw through their act when they thought they were invisible. The one who had the courage to speak when they expected eternal silence. You'll become a legend in their memory, not as a villain, but as a warning. A reminder that cruelty has consequences, that lies eventually crumble, that underestimating the quiet one is always a mistake. Years from now, they'll tell stories about you, maybe to new friends, maybe to therapists, maybe just to themselves in moments of late-night reflection. They'll remember your comeback line word for word. They'll remember the look on your face when you said it. They'll remember the feeling of their carefully constructed reality cracking apart. And they'll wonder what you're doing now, whether you ever think about them, whether you forgave them. You won't care, because by then you'll be so far beyond that chapter of your life that it will feel like a story that happened to someone else. You'll have new friends who treat you with respect. New experiences that remind you what genuine connection feels like. New successes that prove you never needed their validation to be worthy. You'll be living proof that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's indifference. But for now, in this moment, as you watch their civil war unfold, let yourself feel the satisfaction. Not of seeing them suffer, but of being proven right. You always knew their unity was fake. You always knew their cruelty said more about them than it did about you. You always knew that eventually, inevitably, the truth would surface. Your comeback line just accelerated the timeline. They thought they could break you into silence forever. They thought if they just pushed hard enough, you'd disappear, apologize, accept their version of reality. They were wrong. You didn't break. You didn't disappear. You spoke. And your words, your one perfect comeback, did more damage to their structure than all their combined efforts ever did to you. Now let's address the people watching from the sidelines, because your comeback didn't just affect your tormentors. It affected everyone who witnessed it, the silent observers who watched you get torn apart and did nothing. The ones who felt uncomfortable, but didn't want to risk becoming the next target. The ones who secretly admired your strength, but were too afraid to show it. Your comeback gave them something too. Permission. Permission to speak up. Permission to question the group dynamic. Permission to step away from toxicity without feeling guilty. Because if you could do it, if you could stand alone and survive, maybe they could too. You became an example, not by trying to be one, but simply by refusing to stay silent anymore. And that ripple effect, that's even more powerful than the immediate chain reaction you caused. People are paying attention, not just to the drama, but to you, how you handled it, how you're handling it now. They're watching to see if you'll stay calm or lose control, if you'll gloat or move on, if you'll let this define you or use it as a launching pad. And every day you choose dignity over drama, growth over revenge, peace over chaos. You're teaching them something. You're showing them that strength doesn't look like cruelty. It looks like boundaries. It looks like self-respect. It looks like walking away and never looking back. So when you feel tempted to engage, to explain yourself, to rub their noses in their own mess, remember that you're not just making choices for yourself. You're setting an example for everyone who's ever felt small, silenced, or suffocated by group dynamics. You're proving that one person's truth can dismantle 100 people's lies. You're demonstrating that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to fight and simply exist powerfully in your own right. Your comeback line was the spark, but your continued evolution, your refusal to be dragged back into their chaos, your commitment to building a better life without them, that's the fire that keeps burning long after the initial explosion. That's what really terrifies them. Not what you said, but who you're becoming. Someone who doesn't need them, someone who thrives without them. Someone who proved that their power over you was always an illusion you allowed. And once you see through an illusion, once you realize the emperor has no clothes, you can never unsee it. That's the gift your one comeback gave you, clarity. The ability to see them exactly as they are, stripped of all the intimidation, manipulation, and false authority. They're just people. Insecure, petty, desperate people who found temporary power in numbers and cruelty. Nothing special, nothing scary, nothing worth sacrificing your peace for. Oh, you beautiful, dangerous mystery. Welcome back. Welcome to the conversation they're having about you right now in rooms you'll never enter, in group chats you'll never see, in whispers that stop the second you walk in. Yeah, they're talking about you, obsessing actually, and what they're saying, what they're really thinking when those doors close and the masks come off. It's going to mess with your head in the best possible way. Because here's the thing. While you've been worried about fitting in, about being liked, about whether they accept you, they've been in their private spaces having a completely different conversation about you. And that conversation, it's not what you think. It's not what they show you. It's something so much more intense, so much more revealing, so much more terrifying for them to admit. Let's start with the obvious question you've been carrying around like a stone in your chest. What do they really think of me when I'm not there? What do they say when the performance ends? When the smiles drop? When they finally feel safe enough to speak the truth? You've imagined it 1,000 times, haven't you? Pictured them laughing at your expense, mocking your dreams, dismissing everything you are. But that's the beautiful, twisted irony. That's not what's happening behind those doors at all. See, you've been so busy imagining your own funeral that you never stopped to consider you might be their ghost. the presence that haunts them, the name that makes conversations shift, the energy that makes rooms feel smaller when it's mentioned. Here's what they're really saying. Here's what actually happens when your name comes up in private and someone, usually the brave one or the drunk one or the one who can't contain themselves anymore, says something like, "You know what's crazy about them?" And the room goes quiet. Not the quiet of judgment, no, the quiet of recognition, the kind of silence that happens when everyone's thinking the same forbidden thought, but nobody wants to be the first to say it out loud, because they're all feeling it. That uncomfortable truth pressing against their ribs, the realization that you're different, that you've become something they can't quite name, that you're operating on a frequency they can't reach anymore. They start careful at first, testing the waters, throwing out safe observations like, "They've really changed lately." Or, "Have you noticed? They don't come around anymore." Or, "There's something about them now I can't explain." These are the diplomatic versions, the sanitized thoughts, the ones designed to gauge if everyone else feels it too. And when they realize they do, when they see the recognition in each other's eyes, that's when the real conversation begins. That's when the doors truly close and the truth starts bleeding through their carefully constructed words. They lean in closer, voices dropping to that conspiratorial whisper, and someone finally says what they're all thinking. It's like they know something we don't. Oh, that phrase haunts them, doesn't it? It's like they know something we don't, because it's true, and they can feel it, but they can't prove it. You've accessed something, evolved into something, understood something that makes their entire worldview feel suddenly insufficient. And here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where their thoughts about you reveal more about them than you. They're not worried you're broken or lost or making mistakes. They're terrified you've figured something out, cracked some code, found some truth they're still desperately avoiding. Your transformation isn't threatening because it's wrong. It's threatening because it's right, and they're not ready to face what that means. Listen to what they say next in these secret sessions. They've stopped caring what people think, and they say it with this mixture of awe and resentment, this strange cocktail of respect and fear, because that's exactly what they can't do. That's the prison they're still living in, the invisible cage they wake up to every morning. They spend their entire lives performing, calculating, adjusting themselves to fit the ever-shifting expectations of others. And then there's you, walking around like some kind of free agent, some kind of escaped experiment, no longer bound by the rules that still chain them. And watching you do that, watching you exist without their approval, without their permission, without their validation, it breaks something inside them. They'll try to minimize it, of course. They'll say things like, "Must be nice to just not care," or "easy to be free when you burn all your bridges," or "they've just given up." That's all. These are defense mechanisms, psychological shields they construct to protect themselves from the dangerous idea that you didn't give up, you woke up. Because if they admit you're not running from something but running towards something, if they acknowledge you didn't break down but broke through, then they have to confront their own paralysis, their own cowardice, their own unwillingness to do what you've done. So they reframe your evolution as destruction, your liberation as loss, your transformation as tragedy. But here's what they won't say out loud. Here's the thought that keeps them scrolling through your old pictures at 2 a.m, analyzing your recent posts like archaeological evidence, asking mutual friends casual questions that aren't casual at all. They miss you. Not the you that you were, but the you that made them feel less alone in their own cages. When you were playing the same game they were, when you were trapped in the same performance, when you were just as worried about perception and approval and fitting in, you made their prison feel less like a prison. You were the cellmate who made captivity bearable, and now you've escaped and left them alone with their chains. They'll never admit this directly. They'll never say, "Your freedom makes me feel trapped. Your transformation makes me feel stagnant. Your evolution makes me feel like I'm standing still." Instead, they'll dress it up in concern, mask it as care, disguise it as friendly worry. Have you checked on them lately? They seem different. I'm worried about them. They're not themselves anymore. Translation: I'm worried they've found a version of themselves that doesn't need us anymore. I'm worried they've discovered something I'm too scared to look for. I'm worried their transformation is exposing my stagnation. And that last one, they're not themselves anymore. That's the most revealing statement of all. Because what they're really saying is, they're not who I needed them to be anymore. They've stopped playing the role I assigned them. They've broken character in the movie I was directing. You were supposed to stay predictable, manageable, understandable, and instead you went and became this evolving, unknowable force. You were supposed to struggle in ways they could recognize, fail in patterns they could predict, hurt in methods they could diagnose. But you didn't follow the script. You rewrote it, burned it, created something new, and now they're sitting in rooms talking about you like you're a phenomenon. They need to study because they can't comprehend. There's this moment in these conversations, this pivot point where the energy shifts completely, where someone, usually the one who knew you longest or loved you most or feels most threatened by your transformation, says something that makes everyone else uncomfortable. Sometimes I think they see right through all of us. They'll say, like they figured out something fundamental about existence that we're all still pretending doesn't exist. And that's when the room gets really quiet. That's when everyone stares at their phones or their drinks or the floor, because that statement is too close to the truth they're all avoiding. You haven't just changed, you've transcended their understanding, and that's what keeps them talking about you long after you've left their lives. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about the specific thoughts they have about you that they'd never voice, even in private. The ones that live in that space between conscious thought and subconscious recognition. When they look at old photos of you, particularly the ones from before whatever shift happened in you, they feel something they can't quite name. It's not exactly nostalgia. It's more like grief mixed with envy. Mourning for the version of you they could relate to. Jealousy towards the version you've become. They'll stare at those pictures, trying to pinpoint the exact moment you changed, searching for clues they missed, signs they should have seen, trying to understand how someone goes from there to here. And when they find current pictures, recent evidence of who you are now, they study them like detectives, zooming in on your eyes, looking for answers. There's something in your face they don't recognize, something behind your expression that wasn't there before, and it unsettles them more than they want to admit. It's not that you look worse or better, it's that you look unreachable, like you exist in a dimension they no longer have access to. Your smile doesn't seek approval anymore. Your eyes don't ask for validation. Your presence doesn't apologize for taking up space. You've become what they're all terrified of becoming. Someone who exists entirely on their own terms. Behind closed doors, they'll analyze your words too. especially the last real conversation they had with you before things shifted. They'll replay it obsessively, picking apart sentences, searching for hidden meanings, trying to understand if you were saying goodbye, if you were giving them clues, if you were testing them to see if they'd understand. And the truth is, you probably were. You probably were showing them exactly who you were becoming, giving them opportunities to join you in transformation, offering invitations to evolution. But they were too comfortable in their familiar discomfort, too attached to their known misery, too scared of unknown freedom to recognize what you were offering. They think about the moment you stopped explaining yourself, stopped defending your choices, stopped trying to make them understand. That moment lives in their memory like a scar, because it was the moment they lost access to you, the moment your door closed and their opinions stopped mattering. Before that, they could influence you, guide you, shape you with their judgments and expectations. Your need for their approval gave them power. Your desire for their acceptance gave them control. Your fear of their rejection gave them leverage. But then something shifted. Some internal earthquake rearranged your priorities, and suddenly their opinions became background noise. Their judgments became irrelevant. Their approval became unnecessary. And that terrifies them more than anything else. The realization that they have no power over you anymore, no ability to make you doubt yourself, no capacity to pull you back into the collective anxiety they all share. They've lost their grip on you, and they can feel it. They know it, and behind closed doors they talk about it with this mixture of respect and resentment. They respect that you broke free, but resent that you did it without them. Respect that you found yourself, but resent that you stopped looking for their approval first. Respect that you evolved, but resent that your evolution didn't wait for their permission. Here's something they think, but never say. They wonder if you were always this person and they just never noticed, or if you genuinely transformed into someone new. This question haunts them because either answer is uncomfortable. If you were always this powerful and they never saw it, what does that say about their perception, their judgment, their ability to truly see people? And if you genuinely transformed, if you actually evolved from someone they understood into someone they can't comprehend, then what does that say about the permanence of identity, the possibility of change, the potential they're wasting by staying the same? They have conversations about whether you're happier now. And these conversations are fascinating because they reveal what they really think happiness looks like. Some of them will insist you can't be happy, that your transformation is actually hidden pain, that your freedom is actually loneliness in disguise, that your evolution is actually running away. These are the ones who need you to be suffering, who need your liberation to be secretly miserable. Because if you're actually thriving outside their world, outside their rules, outside their understanding, then everything they believe about safety and belonging and happiness is wrong. But there are others in these rooms, quieter ones usually, who watch these conversations with knowing eyes, who don't say much but think everything. They see through the defensive narratives. They recognize the projection. They understand that everyone insisting you must be suffering is really just trying to convince themselves that staying trapped is the right choice. These quiet observers, they're the ones who think about you most, who check your social media when no one's watching, who wonder what it would take for them to do what you did. They're the ones closest to following you, closest to their own transformation, closest to shattering their own comfortable cages, and the people who talk about you the most. The ones who bring up your name constantly, who can't seem to stop analyzing your choices, who always have some new theory about what you're really doing. These are the people most haunted by your departure from their world. They're not talking about you because you're fascinating. They're talking about you because you're a mirror. And every time they look at that mirror, they see everything they're not, everything they could be, everything they're too scared to become. You've become their favorite topic, not because you're in their lives, but because you're in their heads, living rent-free in the space between who they are and who they wish they had the courage to be. There are specific moments when you come up in conversation, predictable triggers that make someone mention your name. When someone in the group is struggling with a decision, trying to figure out if they should take a risk, standing at their own crossroads, someone will inevitably say, "Remember when they just up and decided to completely change their life? Remember how everyone said it was crazy?" And everyone will nod. Everyone will remember. And everyone will think about how you're doing now. Wonder if you made the right choice. Try to use your outcome as evidence for whatever decision they're trying to make. When they're drunk, when inhibitions drop and honesty rises, that's when the real truths come out. That's when someone finally says what everyone's thinking. I think about them all the time. Someone will admit, "I wonder if they ever think about us, if they miss this, if they regret leaving." And here's what they don't understand. Here's what they can't comprehend. You do think about them sometimes, not with regret, but with gratitude. Grateful they stayed exactly where they were so you could see clearly what happens when you don't evolve. Grateful their judgment pushed you harder towards freedom. Grateful their misunderstanding clarified your understanding. Behind closed doors, they debate whether to reach out to you, whether to send that message they've typed and deleted 100 times, whether to bridge the gap that's grown between you. They'll workshop the message together, trying different approaches, debating tone and wording, arguing about whether to be casual or honest, whether to pretend nothing changed or acknowledge everything did. And usually, probably thankfully, they'll convince each other not to send it. They'll decide to respect your space, maintain your distance, let you be whoever you've become. What they don't realize is that decision, that choice to not reach out, is exactly why you had to leave in the first place. They think about who you're with now. What kind of people populate your new life? Whether you've found others like you or if you're walking alone. This question occupies more of their thoughts than they'd admit because it's tied directly to their own fears about transformation. If you've found your tribe, found people who understand the new you, who celebrate your evolution, who match your frequency, then your departure makes sense and they have to accept they weren't your people anymore. But if you're alone, if you're isolated in your transformation, if your evolution came at the cost of all connection, then they can convince themselves staying trapped is the wiser choice. Here's something they'll never admit. Sometimes they try to become more like you. They'll adopt small pieces of your transformation, test out elements of your philosophy, experiment with fragments of your freedom. They'll say something you would say, make a choice you would make, try on your confidence like a costume, but it never fits quite right, never feels authentic, because they're trying to mimic the external manifestation of an internal revolution. They want your results without your process, your freedom without your sacrifice, your evolution without your earthquake. And when it doesn't work, when their borrowed confidence feels hollow, they'll go back to talking about you in those closed rooms, trying to figure out what they're missing. They create narratives about what led to your transformation, origin stories that make sense to them, explanations that fit their worldview. Some think you had a breakdown. Some think you found someone new. Some think you discovered some philosophy or practice or path that changed everything. And maybe there's truth in all of these theories. Maybe your transformation was born from multiple catalysts, multiple moments, multiple revelations. But what they never consider, what they can't quite grasp, is that maybe you just got tired. Tired of pretending, tired of performing, tired of living in a world that demanded you be smaller than you are. When they talk about your changes, they'll focus on the surface things, the external evidence they can point to. You dress differently now, talk differently, choose differently, move through the world differently. And these observations are accurate but incomplete, because what they're seeing are just symptoms of a deeper shift, just visible evidence of invisible transformation. They're reading the book by its cover, studying the shadow without acknowledging the light, creating it, analyzing the earthquake's damage without understanding the tectonic forces beneath. There's a particular kind of conversation that happens late at night, after everyone else has gone home, when just 2 or 3 people remain, still processing everything, still trying to understand. These are the most honest conversations, the ones where people finally admit, I think they saw through us, saw through all the pretending, all the performance, all the lies we tell ourselves about being fine, and this admission, this recognition that you weren't fooled by their masks, that you saw the truth beneath their presentations. This is what makes them feel most vulnerable. Because if you saw through them, if you recognized their illusions, then your departure wasn't random. It was a choice, a judgment, a decision that they weren't real enough, deep enough, honest enough. They wonder if you judge them now, if you look back at your shared past with contempt or compassion, if you see them as obstacles you overcame or as people you simply outgrew. This question matters to them more than they realize because it's tied to how they see themselves. If you judge them harshly, if you view your shared past with disdain, then they have to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves. But if you've simply moved beyond judgment, if you've evolved past the need to categorize people as good or bad, if you've transcended the binary thinking they're still trapped in, that's somehow even more unsettling because it means you're operating on a level they can't even comprehend.